Hi, good evening, everyone. All our viewers who are watching us on YouTube, joining us from different parts across the globe. Good evening to all. And today we have invited Ria from Arpan organization. And when we are talking about Arpan, I would like to say that I think as a community of teachers, educators, school leaders, coaches, consultants, it becomes very important for us to spread awareness on different areas, topics which can empower educators. And today, our topic is actually on child sexual abuse. And when we talk about child sexual abuse, we need to talk about Arpan. So a little about Arpan. Arpan is an award-winning organization working towards addressing the issue of child sexual abuse in India. Their flagship program on personal safety ensures that children are empowered with age-appropriate information and they are able to identify unsafe situation at the right time, seek help, and refuse assertively. And this has become so important in today's time where we as educators need to help our students understand that how is it they can identify such situations and protect themselves. And at the same time, it becomes important for parents as well to know that how is it that they can prevent and inform their children about such situations. So I welcome Ria on our channel today. And we are going to be discussing all about child sexual abuse and what are the ways in which we can actually prevent it from happening. So Ria, tell us, what is child sexual abuse to begin with?
Thank you, Raki, for the introduction. And as it is important to understand what child sexual abuse is, so let me define it for all of you. It is any act using a child for the sexual gratification of the more powerful person. I know this definition may look little complex. So let me break it down for you into four important components in this definition. So one, definitely when I say there needs to be a child, the child is any individual below the age of 18 is considered as a child. So again, there needs to be a child. There needs to be a powerful person. Now, in that powerful person, as I said, now power can be derived from different sources. A person can be powerful over a child in different, as I said, could be in a position of a relationship, could be authority, like how we have teachers, or could be any tutor or any coaching person. So again, a person who holds authority, who is in the relationship of a child, someone who has a charisma, who has a knowledge. So any individual who is powerful in that situation in front of the child and makes that child vulnerable in that situation, definitely, so that is powerful person. So there needs to be a child, there needs to be a powerful person. There also needs to be an intent of sexual gratification. Okay, so intention is very important. The act is considered not only when it has happened, but even if a person has an intent to commit that act, a sexual activity, so that activity and that satisfaction that the person derives, like how the adult experiences. So similar, those kind of activities when it is indulged with a child. So that is again sexual gratification. And the act, and as I said, the act is something which is intentional. It is not accidental. कि गलती से छू लिया, गलती से touch हो गया, या गलती से मैंने कुछ कह दिया. It's not accidental, it is intentional. So as I said, when we understand the issue of child sexual abuse, there needs to be a child who is below the age of 18. There needs to be a powerful person. And as I said, different sources of power. Similarly, there needs to be an intention of receiving sexual gratification by this powerful person. And then is the act. And as I said, the act could be a contact as well as non-contact, and it is intentional and it is not accidental.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for actually explaining this in a way that we can understand and accordingly explain our students, our own children. And the way you explained it is that there needs to be a person probably of authority, and a child, and then it needs to be intentional. So these are some of the key points, where we as educators and parents need to keep in mind. And this becomes very, very important to begin with, to understand what is actually child sexual abuse. Now, having said that and having discussed that, what are the different kinds of child sexual abuse? How does abuse happen online in that case? Because we always feel that abuse needs to be in person. So we've also heard about online cases. So tell us more about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So firstly, when we say how does it happen, so definitely there is grooming, or there's some kind of planning that is involved with the child as well as with the family. So when I say grooming, that is in a way where a relationship is maintained, or a relationship is created with a child and the family, and understanding the child's needs, the child's well-being, what is the family requirement, or what the child wants. So there are a lot of ways to understand basically what exactly the perpetrator or the offender wants to know. But that process or that planning is called as grooming. Okay, and this grooming, as I said, it's mainly done in a form of a relationship with the child as well as with the family. The reason of doing it is also so that the child and the family can maintain secrecy. Maybe introducing in a form of a human game, or it's just a relationship, or it's just the act of love. So there's a lot of ways through which a grooming can take place with the child as well as with the family. But the overall aspect is to maintain secrecy around the act or the incident that has happened. And as you rightly said, if we want to look at what types of abuse or sexual abuse are, so it is two types. One is contact abuse, where there is a physical touch with the child, and one is non-contact. And I'll come to the online. So again, when I talk about the contact abuse, when I said there is a physical touch, or there is a physical connect with the child, which means in a form of a penovaginal intercourse, there is oral sex, anal sex, or touching the child's private body parts, or asking the child to touch the powerful person's private body parts, fondling with the child's private body parts, or any part of the body. So may not only limited to touching the child's private parts, but it could be any part of the body with an intention of sexual gratification. So it could be a part of a body where it is head or a thigh or a back, where it's not private parts, but again, it's a part of a body. But when the person touches, and if the person has an intention of sexual gratification, then that will be considered as contact sexual abuse. And non-contact is in a way where there is no physical touch with the child, but in a form of showing any inappropriate article, like pornographic content on a video, or like as I said, newspaper article, or asking the child watch the adults indulge into sexual activity, or asking them to undress, or speaking in a language, or sending certain words which are again not appropriate, and have certain context which are sexual in nature. Yeah, so these are certain forms through which even non-contact sexual abuse can happen. And as you rightly said, online, I think we've all experienced, especially post the lockdown also. And if you look at certain stats also, it says it's just increasing. The cybercrime is increasing. So this powerful person who has an intention of sexual gratification, similarly, he on an online platform also, what he or she does is, again, it's a kind of grooming, again draws the child into a relationship, whether by creating certain IDs or certain profiles, where the child personally feels that, okay, I have, people want to accept me, or they are someone who have accepted my friend request. Okay, let's chat. We are of the same age. And so through online kind of activities also, they can be trapped. So like, for example, again, cyberbullying. Posting certain humiliating comments, or certain messages, texting, stalking, where the person is constantly following certain activities, what the child is doing, where is the child going, how many friends that the child has, in the setting. So again, that's online. Or maybe pushing to the child to an extent where the child is made to create certain harmful or inappropriate content, or as we say, like live streaming. For example, where I am online and you do certain activities, and and the child definitely, if after a lot of grooming or a relationship has been built, and so then definitely the child gets into these kind of instances. And similarly, later is about threatening, blackmailings, where the person wants to pressure them so that they do or follow certain way through which they are able to keep a tap of it. Yeah. So similarly, these are also ways through online sexual abuse can happen.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this, Ria. It really helps to know because awareness is one big aspect, and that's what Arpan is constantly doing. Where you'll tie up with schools and ensure that you're spreading awareness and helping students, parents, teachers, all the relevant stakeholders gain awareness about what kind of child sexual abuse can happen within the school premise or even back at home or wherever the child is. So this becomes an important aspect, especially for stakeholders to first become aware, know what all can happen, and then comes the next step, where is identifying. So what are the ways in which we can identify signs of child sexual abuse? So it may so happen that the child may not be able to express. So are there any signals wherein we as parents or educators are able to identify that okay, there's something that has happened?
Sure. I'll definitely start with the sure indicator so that, all our viewers, all the parents, the caregivers, the teachers who are there in the system are able to understand. But similarly, let me tell you, it all completely depends on how the child, an individual child is, the way the child is responding to a situation or to an abuser, and the way the grooming has happened. Yeah. So again, there is no black and white, or there is not like a list per se, where we need to follow that. But similarly, you know your child best. If you are in a classroom setup, or even if you are coaching some children, or even in the family, I think each one of us who are interacting day in and day out know our children well, and the pattern that they follow, the way they behave, the way they act, the way they say certain things, or how the entire, their well-being is. But again, as I said, any drastic change in the behavior or any kind of signs that we see, it is important to do a right intervention and support them at the right time. So let's look at first of the sure indicator that I want to emphasize. So one is, as I said, any girl child getting pregnant, that is because below the age of 18. So then that's a sure indicator. Similarly, any child having sexually transmitted diseases like HIV or AIDS, so that's a clear indicator. And the important aspect is, even if the child comes and tells you that this is what has happened to me, doesn't matter if the child is not able to give you a full information or a complete sentence, but even an indicator, or even if a sign where the child is saying that, in his or her own language, that this is the person that I do not like, or this is a situation that I'm not feeling comfortable about, where the child is coming and sharing some information or giving some hints that what is making him or her uncomfortable, then definitely we need to respond it appropriately. So these are some of the sure indicators. The other, as I said, could be because of various other reasons, but any drastic or any pattern that if you see it, then as I said, right intervention is important at the right time. So one, in terms of behavior that we could think of, is again social withdrawal, where the child is not going out and don't want to speak to anybody because of the shame or the guilt that the child is experiencing. Similarly, there could also be an over-pleasing behavior, where the child is not saying no to any kind of demands that, an adult is making. So, okay, I will go and help you. Okay, I will do this for you. Now that means that the child wants to feel accepted. Yeah. Again, as I said, may not necessarily because of the CSA incident, but again, if the child is doing it on a regular basis, then what is it that is making the child do it? Yeah. So again, that could be one of the reason in terms of behavior. There could also be drastic change in achievement patterns. I know that as tutors, as caregivers, we are generally concerned about the academic performances of a child. And when they score less, our interest is something that, okay, let's focus more on studies. Let's see what can be done, right? But there are also children we've seen in our experiences where they have scored well. They have got distinction, they've got first class. And when you ask those children, or when you do an intervention or a therapy session, you realize when the child said that my entire focus or my control was only on studies. That was my space, so that I want to forget what has happened, or I don't want to go into that space again. So again, there is a drastic change in achievement patterns. Then in terms of mental well-being also, there is constant anxiety. Children are giving aggression. So what is it making that child aggressive, which was not earlier? Probably little things is upsetting, and the child can exhibit that anger. So that could be one. Then also eating and sleeping disturbances can also be one of the sign and indicator. Like eating could be either the child is overeating or the child is not at all eating, because depending upon what has been told to the child, if the child was told that, okay, you were very beautiful, and so this is what I've done to you, so then probably the child would want to eat more so that I look ugly. I'm just giving you these instances, but these are way through which even children can think. Yeah. So again, eating disturbances can occur. There is also sleeping. So the child doesn't want to sleep in the night, because the child is thinking the moment I go back to sleep, to mere saath ye dobara ho jayega. So I want to stay alert. I want to be awake. I'm all hyper vigilant around what is happening around me. So again, eating and sleeping disturbances ho sakta hai. जैसे मैंने कहा, anxiety, there is depression, there is suicidal ideations also, because there is no way out from here. There's no escape, and so this is my life, this is how I'm going to live with it. I cannot share it with anybody because the person said it's a secrecy, it's a art secret game. So again, that could be one of the areas. In terms of sexuality also, the children might start at an early age abusive languages, which probably as we caregivers may have not introduced. So even if they are using it, they might know the meaning. So where is it coming from? From where are they learning this? There could also be sexualized behavior, wherein if it was introduced in a form of a love, then probably the child may enact it in a way, or if it was in a form of a punishment, then again the way child may perceive it, that if I do a homework well, and I don't want this act to happen, so then I better behave it. Because if I do not do my homework, this is what is going to happen to me in a form of a punishment. Yeah. So the way even the abuser introduces the activity or the act with the child can also determine the way the child is perceiving sexual behavior, sexual activity. So again, in terms of sexuality, these can also be one of the indicators as sign. So behavior, there is also one more aspect wherein physical also you can see. Again, I know as children, there are urinary infections children do experience, but if they are having this constant genitals, penile swelling, bleeding, infection, then it is important to again see it and address it. And also there is a psychosomatic illness. Now, again, when the child is stressed, or when the child wants to overcome an unsafe situation, the child may have a physical symptoms or a physical health concerns, like for example, stomach ache, there is headache or vomiting sensation, refusing to go to maybe a tuition or to meet somebody in an event. The reason is because the child is experiencing that there is a threat, there is a situation which is unsafe, and in order to not face that, the child is automatically facing it at a physical level. So when you go to a doctor, you may not have any medical list or medical aspects to be seen, wherein ये बच्चों के साथ ये दिखाई दे रहा है होते हुए, उसका आपको एविडेंस नहीं मिलेगा, मेडिकली प्रूव नहीं होगा, but because the child is experiencing doesn't mean that the child is lying. Yeah, so again, that's also very important aspect.
Yeah, so that brings us to the aspect that as parents and educators, we really need to be watchful and mindful. And though some of the signs that you shared are, kind of can overlap with other things as well, but it becomes important to keep a watch and understand if it's happening for a long duration or if it's just a one-off sign that they have shown, a sign of irritability or sign of anxiousness or anger towards somebody. So we I think as adults we really need to be aware of these signs first of all. And what you rightly shared is there are so many overlapping signs, emotional, behavioral, even in terms of, as you said, that the child may show interest in a particular subject. I mean, but he may get academically inclined because the child wants to cut off from the world. It could lead to isolation. So all these, signs are somewhat, I understand they're somewhat indicators, but then again, for us, the stakeholders, it's very easy to get into the myths that अरे मेरे बच्चे को नहीं हो सकता है, या स्कूल में नहीं होगा, या घर पे नहीं होगा, घर is, the house is absolutely safe. So how do we go around bursting these myths कि सिर्फ लड़कियों को sexually abuse किया जाता है, लड़कों को नहीं किया जाता है, या फिर कोई बड़ा ही होगा जो कर सकता है. We've also heard of cases where children are indulging in sexual abuse unknowingly. So how do we handle these situations and how do we break these myths?
Yeah, so as you rightly said, awareness is definitely for sure very, very key and important, the role that it plays. Similarly, I also understand that how these indicators are overlapping, but as I said, we need to be vigilant as caregivers. We need to be on our guard because we play a very responsible position in the life of child. And at the same time, as you said, what are certain myths? And one of the fact that I want to tell you that one of the studies that happened actually by the Ministry of Women and Child Development in 2007, it clearly indicated that 1 out of 2 children experience some form of sexual abuse. So which means 53% of children experience some form of sexual abuse. And it also indicated that both girls and boys are equally vulnerable. तो ये सिर्फ लड़कियों के साथ ही होता है, उन्हें ही ये सारे मैसेजेस देने चाहिए. नो, ये जरूरी नहीं है, ये बॉयज के साथ भी हो सकता है. It can happen with boys. Definitely there is, again, as I said, there is a myth or there is a perspective where, oh, boys need to be strong, they cannot cry. Again, all these are something that we've been conditioned to, but it is essential to have a effective communication irrespective of whether it is boy or a girl. And as this personal safety education program, which I'll be talking about later, does bring in this. So irrespective of what gender you play, these personal safety key messages, what is safe, what is unsafe, helping children to identify whether which situation is safe and unsafe, what can you do in that situation is really crucial. Yeah. And also for a fact, to one of the stats I want to bring up is that 97% of the perpetrator or an offender is known to the victim and to the family. So again, one of the myth that ये सिर्फ strangers लोग ही करते हैं. So again, ये नहीं है. It's someone known. It's someone close to the family and to the child. Yeah, and as we say that it could be a neighbor, it could be someone in the authority, it could be a caregiver, it could be an older children, as you rightly mentioned. But ये जरूरी नहीं है कि age will always be a factor. Depending upon in that situation who is powerful, that can also determine, right? So, but yeah, as you rightly said, ये कोई भी कर सकता है. So again, there's no stranger danger. There's also a myth or a situation where people feel yes, if men ही sexually abuse करते हैं. Yeah, and again, when you look at certain reportings, when you look at certain data, it does say that men reports are more, but then that doesn't mean that even women cannot sexually abuse children. Definitely the percentage might be less or there is no enough reporting, but even there have been instances where women are also, have an intention getting into these kind of activities with children. So one is definitely it's not no more a stranger danger because 97% of the perpetrator or the offender is known to the family and to the child. And as I said, both girls and boys are equally vulnerable. So educating them on personal safety education program is key. And again, the myth about only men sexually abused is also, it's not, because the fact is men and women both can sexually abuse children. Yeah.
Okay, so it's an alarming fact when you said that 53% of the children are sexually abused. So that's really alarming. And this brings us to the next question, to understand that how do we help our students, our children understand these kind of situations, so that they, when they are in that situation, they are able to protect themselves. So how do we educate them to identify these situations? So is there any kind of checklist that, I know Arpan does it, but as parents, as teachers in classroom, how do we deal and how do we help them educate around these topics?
Sure. So one, I would again say that prevention is possible when we are aware. So again, read more. I would say there are a lot of resources available, whether it is Arpan's resources or, a lot of other resources related to the issue of child sexual abuse. So do read. That is what something that I want to encourage. Similarly, when we read and when we understand, and if you have any queries or doubts, I think reaching out to the experts are also important, because at times when we read, but if we interpret something else, I think to clarify those doubts are also important. I would also say that emphasize teaching children on personal safety education program as caregivers. But before teaching children, I think, as I said, we need to understand as caregivers, as teachers, whether it is in the school or whether it is at home or any kind of surroundings that we are associated with children, what the issue is, what kind of impact that it can happen on children. As I said, we just discussed about the indicators that children can show, but above all is to believe the child. That's something important. And I would also say the kind of response that we give to the children is also very crucial, because any kind of response in a way, whether it is blaming or it is in a way where we are questioning them, it can be further traumatized, a very critical component. So again, the way you respond, the way you handle the situation is very important. And definitely we do a lot of in-depth training on how do you handle disclosures, how do you first level intervention. Certain do's is, again, listen to the child, do not blame the child, validate the child's feeling, acknowledge that the child had a courage and came and told you that this is what has happened. Even if the child has not come and told you, and if you have suspected, I think it's from the caregiver's perspective, you need to initiate that conversation and effective communication, but ensuring that communication is safe. The child is feeling safe. The child is feeling comfortable wherever you have this dialogue with the child. So that needs to be important. Similarly, I'm sure confidentiality is also important, because to whom am I sharing? Is that the person is in a better position to help me in that situation? So again, letting the children also know that, okay, thank you for sharing, but at the same time, I would like so and so person to also know, and understanding that if it's a school, then child protection, each one will have to follow child protection policy, right? You will have a certain guidelines, though this is the way the teacher needs to respond to a situation. This is how the referral needs to happen. So again, these are certain do's. As caregivers, I would urge that do not panic, do not overreact, because that's how the child is in front of you and the child is sensing what has happened. So the way we respond, as I was saying in the beginning also, is really important. Do not blame, do not make the child repeat the situation again and again, because it's a difficult situation to be in. Similarly, do not confront the child in the offender's presence. Okay, you come and tell me if so and so person has done. So again, please do not do that, because the person is not going to say, oh, I did it, right? So ultimately the message goes to the child saying that you told me he or she did it, but the person denies it. Yeah, so which means then probably, are we not believing the children? Yeah, so please do not do that in terms of preventive, as I said, definitely stopping abuse is the utmost priority. So your response is important, stopping abuse is important, identifying who the caregivers are, who the trusted people or helping adult are in the child's life is equally important, because you will also need some support system. Similarly, the child also needs the support system to be in that situation, and to comfort that child, basically, to in the entire process. Yeah, so this is important. And as I said, what will help is understanding how personal safety education program plays an important role. And that's how even we do at Arpan, when we do in the schools, when we do it in the community, or when we train even our teachers, we let them know that this is personal safety education program, which is based on empowering children to identify safe, unsafe, seek help, refuse assertively, say no, get away, seek help at the right time, keep telling even if your caregivers or trusted adult are not listening. So maybe not one, maybe go to the next, but not my fault is another aspect that we let children know. And again, as I said, there are different courses available. We have digital courses wherein children and parents or teachers can take them through. But I would encourage you all go through it first before you take it up, because if there are any questions that come in, we need to be in a better position to respond. And at times it's completely all right also as adults, if we are not able to answer all the questions, letting children honestly know that, I don't have the answer right now, but I will definitely come back to you. But do come back with a response. Yeah, so again, reading, going through these digital courses with children, which are like if it is a digital course, then definitely it's a 40 to 45 minutes course. But depending upon how the child is, how interactive are you making, it can go up to an hour or so, but they are more interactive. It is visual, or children like visual, audio, certain stories. So they really enjoy this. And then story based is also available, where if not digital, maybe through illustrations, through stories also, you can take up personal safety education program.
And all this is available on your website?
Yes, it is all available online. Everybody can access it from any part of the globe. And it's a free of cost, so you don't need to worry about as the monetary aspect. And yeah, they are all available.
Okay. You spoke about not my fault, and that kind of made me think that when a child is sexually abused, does the child feel that it's his or her fault? Is that usually the case?
Yeah. Generally the child feels that isme meri galti thi, or maybe the abuser also has given. So as I said, the way the grooming has happened based on the child's need, the child probably wanted love, attention, space, the child wanted some time with a concerned person. So again, it's more than like how you have a sexualized relationship. It's about a relationship with the child, with the innocence of the child. So generally what happens is, even if the child wants to say it, but if it is said in a way that who is going to believe you? Aapko kaun vishwas karega? I am the best friend of your mother, or I am a teacher. So who is going to believe you, even if you disclose this? And सिमिलरली आप जो बोल रहे हैं वो झूठ बोल रहे हैं. कई बार हो जाता है कि घर से भी एक काइंड ऑफ मैसेजिंग होती है ना, बिकॉज मे बी नॉट CSA एज पर से, बट इवन फॉर अ लिटिल थिंग, लाइक फॉर एग्जाम्पल आज टीचर से मार पड़ी. आई एम जस्ट गिविंग एन एग्जाम्पल. आज टीचर से डांट पड़ी, या टीचर ने आज पनिश कर दिया. ओ, विच मीन्स यू मस्ट हैव डन समथिंग, राइट? आपने होमवर्क ठीक से नहीं किया होगा, और यू बीन टॉकिंग टू ईच अदर, एंड दैट्स व्हाई टीचर मस्ट हैव टोल्ड यू टू स्टैंड आउटसाइड. Or even at home also, if they come and complain that some uncle touched me, so then the immediate response would be, oh, but I had told you not to go there, I had told you not to speak to that so and so person. So the kind of messaging also at times happen. The children feel, or they are in a situation that irrespective of what has happened, it's going to come on me that it was my fault. And so to work on that, it's not your fault, it is a lot of effort that goes in, because there's a lot of guilt that मैं कुछ नहीं कर पाई. there is shame, there is embarrassment, there is confusion also that the child is going through, that I actually didn't know what happened to me. Does it happen to only me, or does it happen to anybody else? So when the child is in that difficult situation or in that confused situation, the child is always given a message that you wanted it, or you want to be a part of this, and we did it together. It's a human game, and so we need to maintain it in a secrecy. And as I said, so the reason of maintaining control is also so that the child doesn't disclose this incident. And that's why that grooming, as I was saying, it could be for a month, it could be for years, it could be for a second, because the entire intention is to maintain secrecy. And constantly the child is feeling that it is my fault, and I couldn't do at that point any aspect to keep myself safe. So it's a huge work that needs to happen, because the child is going through a lot of guilt.
Yeah, of course. And just like the child is going through a lot of guilt, I'm sure when parents come to know about this abuse that has happened, the parents also go through similar emotions, similar guilt. So how does a parent or a caregiver at that point in time intervene? Or whom do we reach out to for help?
So again, as I said, Arpan does have helpline numbers, and for the fact that it is a difficult situation for the parent or for any caregiver at that moment, because they too feel same, that me being responsible, oh, I was around the child and I didn't notice it, or I was not aware. So it is a situation where where the parent or the caregiver can also feel the same. What we believe at Arpan is that psychoeducation is important. So psychoeducating is not only for difficult cases, but at any point of time, if the parent or the caregiver is feeling that, I was helpless and I couldn't do anything at that moment, or I don't even know how to respond, and there could be a lot of other circumstances that the family or the child or the parent has gone through, telling or talking about is really important. It doesn't always mean reporting, but it also means that, am I in a better position to at least confront, talk, sort out what is going in my mind, and bringing out right solution so that the child can be safe. Yeah, so different platforms are there. Definitely there is, as I said, Arpan's helpline are there. There are certain organizations who are also working on a similar line. So one can reach out to them. Again, there are a lot of resources. There are a lot of resources for the adults that are available at Arpan's website, because frequently asked questions can also occur. So one can go through that. Facilitator courses are available. So one needs to again read, understand the issue. And as I said, maybe when we talk much in detail, maybe in the next session, I think we will be specifying about the first level intervention, because that's the core of, handling a situation when it is with the child. So that's important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this was very, very beautifully covered. And this, our first episode on child sexual abuse was, to help stakeholders understand that, what is actually child sexual abuse and what are the signs, and how is it that you can, as a stakeholder, educate your students, your own child, and help them understand. And as you rightly said, that it can be prevented. But again, for that, awareness comes in first. And I hope that through this session, we have been able to create some awareness among educators and parents and other stakeholders who are watching this YouTube video. I would insist that all the educators can actually reach out to Arpan and call them to your school to conduct the child safety program, so that all the students are aware of what can happen and how is it that they need to prevent this kind of situation. And also the in order to avoid the trauma that the child can go through, and as well as the parents can go through, it becomes very, very important to spread this awareness. And that's why I would urge each and every educator watching this, and each and every probably a parent who's watching, read more about it. The website is, the resources are available on the website, arpan.org. Please go there, read more, and be more aware because the first step towards prevention is awareness. And that's what we're trying to do as a part of Teachers Help Teachers, where we want to bring in that kind of awareness around different topics which are crucial in today's day and time. Because schools are no longer just mere institutes to impart academic knowledge. They form an equally important aspect of the child's growth, and that's where I feel organizations like Arpan are doing great work with regards to spreading awareness and helping students become more self-reliant and more aware of how they can prevent and protect themselves, so prevent child sexual abuse and protect themselves. So thank you, Ria, and thank you to all our viewers. I'm just going to take a moment to check if there are any questions on YouTube. So in case our viewers have any question, you can put down in the comment, and we will take it up, and Ria will be able to answer. So in the next couple of minutes, in case there are any comments or any questions, pressing questions that you have, I would suggest please mention it so that we can take advantage of the session while Ria is here. So just give me a moment, Ria, to go through the chat.
Sure, Raki.
So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you, Deepa. Thank you so much. Yep, Born Academy. I'm so glad that even academy owners, private tutors, it's the message is reaching out to so many of them. So I'm so glad that sooner or later this video is going to reach out to them. So at the moment, I don't see any question. So I think we can end our session for today. And in case there are any questions that can come up, and I will then post it to you so that we can reply to them back. So thank you so much, Ria, for joining us today and helping us spread awareness on this important topic. And we shall see you soon for our next episode. And for that, of course, stay tuned with us, and we shall be sharing about the updates in our community forum. So, yep. Thank you. And for all our Muslim brothers and sisters, very happy Eid in advance. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for the initiative. Thank you.